continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. The World Health Organization says the Delta variant, first detected in India, is becoming the dominant variant of COVID-19 globally. The WHO said the uptrend in cases worldwide is caused by the variant's significantly increased transmissibility. However, the organization needs more data to determine the effectiveness of existing vaccines against the variant. In United Kingdom alone, nearly all of the new COVID-19 cases in the past 7 days were caused by the Delta variant.
The whole situation is so dynamic because of the variants that are now circulating, and as you said, the Delta variant is well on its way to becoming the dominant variant globally because of its significantly increased transmissibility.
The WHO also notes that Africa remains an area of concern despite only accounting for 5% of new global infections and 2% of deaths. This as new cases in some countries in the continent have doubled in the last week.
But the brutal reality is that in an era of multiple variants, with increased transmissibility, potentially increased impact, we have left vast swathes of the population and the vulnerable population in Africa unprotected by vaccines in a context where health systems are already weak. That's the reality. And this is the consequence of the current unfair distribution of vaccines.
The Novavax vaccine reportedly shows strong efficacy against most COVID-19 variants. However, its current data on the shot's efficacy against the Delta strain remains inconclusive. Novavax CEO Stanley Eric talks about this on Bloomberg's Balance of Power.
We had just finished running a phase 3 efficacy trial in the UK, and we got really good results there. But when we started this trial in the U.S., which is 30,000 people, we were enrolling in a time period when in the U.S., the variants started to be circulating, and 82% of our trial, people who got sick were sick from the variants. And that's what everybody's been worried about, and there's been no efficacy trial against variants. And so our trial, while it got 90% overall efficacy against the variants, which were 82% of our trial, we got 93% efficacy. And so that's really important to talk about future vaccination. And there are a couple other, I think, reasonably important parts of it as well. There's you worry about severity of disease, and you classify them as mild or moderate or severe. But we had 0 moderate or severe, so we had 100% efficacy against severe disease and moderate and severe disease, and that's really what we were looking for, and we got it. But we also got, we got 82% of the trial was in variants. The rest of the trial, the 18% was in non-variants, or mainly viruses that were similar to the original Wuhan strain. And we've got 100% variant, 100% protection against that. So a lot of good data coming out of this, and it shows. The thing maybe that's most important is it shows that our vaccine works consistently in different clinical trials in different geographies, and so we're really pleased with the results. And that combines with, of course, in vaccines, safety is paramount, and we have probably the most benign safety profile of any vaccine.
Do you have enough information from this test to know how you do against the Delta variant?
No, we don't. We didn't have enough cases of Delta in the U.S. during that time period. So most of the variants were the UK, the Alpha variant, and but we did have some Beta and Delta, but just not enough numbers to be able to really tell. And although we feel that the vaccine it stimulates a broad enough immune response that we will be effective against the Delta and others, this trial did not show that.
Stan, you have a vaccine that you've shown is efficacious and that it is safe. What stands between you and getting shots into arms?
Well, a lot of work, but a lot of work that we're running 24/7. In addition, when you file for either the FDA or the Europe or the UK, You need a package of data that includes the clinical efficacy, which we have probably the best in the world, clinical safety. We probably have the best in the world there. And then we have to show that we manufacture the product consistently.
The Human Rights Watch insisted that the International Criminal Court, or ICC, still has jurisdiction over the drug war crimes in the country. But the group admits it will be challenging for the ICC, especially that the government refused to cooperate in the probe. Mobile journalist Stanley Gahete gives us a front seat to the story.
Will President Rodrigo Duterte be finally held accountable for thousands of people killed in the brutal drug war? Presidential spokesperson is confident it will not happen after a former top prosecutor requested an ICC pre-chamber to open investigations into crimes of humanity against the populist leader. Is the elusive justice for victims of drug war already within reach? Harry Roque said the ICC has no jurisdiction over the country after it withdrew membership in 2019. It will also not cooperate with the ICC to investigate a sitting president, a first in the country's history.
It is legally erroneous because in the first place, the ICC has no jurisdiction over the subject matter of crimes against humanity as alleged in her information against President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
To show the country's legal mechanism are working, the DOJ is in fact working closely with the United Nations Human Rights Council to review dozens of killings related to the drug war. Roque even belittled the complaint because the prosecutor based her information on media reports, a hearsay.
Without cooperation from the Philippine state, hinding-hindi naman makakabuo ng kaso kung hindi base sa ebidensya na hearsay at galing mismo sa mga komunista at politikong kalaban ng presidente.
But the New York-based Human Rights Watch disagrees with the president's spokesman. She said the ICC has jurisdiction to request an investigation for crimes against humanity committed in the Philippines.
The Philippines was a state party to the ICC from November 1st, 2011 to March 17th, 2019. So crimes committed during that 8-year time frame, or a little less than 8 years, are fair game for the ICC. And when the Philippines became a state party to the ICC, they basically gave the court jurisdiction over crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide.
There was evidence of thousands of cases of extrajudicial killings perpetrated by the Philippine administration. She noted that there had been what she called repeated verbal encouragement by the highest level of state officials to use lethal force, and also looked at the lack of due process, warrantless searches, and indications of falsified and planted evidence.
But the task ahead is still daunting. The legal processes in the ICC are different from our own system.
This won't be the first. And so the challenge will be to build the case and, to establish the evidence and build credible cases from the outside through diaspora communities, perhaps bringing victims and witnesses outside of the country to provide evidence to build, the respective cases.
After a complaint was filed by former Senator Antonio Trillanes in April 2017, the prosecutor gathered information from open sources and official records to examine if there was basis to proceed and to formally investigate. We are still at this stage after Bensouda requested the ICC pre-chamber to allow an investigation.
What she submitted to the trial chamber is in fact more extensive. So they're just basically double checking to make sure that her request is in line with the requirements of Article 15 in the Rome Statute. All things being equal, we hope that the judges will open the investigation.
It would take probably 3 months for the chamber to decide to proceed or deny the request. The real investigation could take years and requires the cooperation of the Philippine government.
The time should take around 3 months. Certainly, my experience, because I cover other situations in Asia, that was about the timeline they adhered to for opening the Myanmar investigation. The outlier is Afghanistan. That took more than 2 years, but there are a lot of other considerations.
For now, Duterte can still have a sigh of relief because the process is long and tedious, and no one knows when he faces trial at The Hague. He may longer be the president when the ICC indicts him. For thousands of drug war victims' families, justice remains elusive, but Bensouda's action will give them a ray of hope that those behind the killings will be held accountable.
I mean, this is not a quick process, especially since it will be taking place primarily from the outside. They're not going to be granted access into the country. That it may be slow, but it can produce results.
I am Stanley Gaete and we are One News.
A 16-year-old man was killed by police officers in an anti-illegal drug operation on June 16. Authorities insisted the minor fought back, but his family refused to believe their narrative. Romy Lopez with a story.
Relatives of John Derek Hellis are still in disbelief as they attend the wake of the 16-year-old boy. John and a companion died in the hands of police officers in an anti-illegal drug operation in Binyan, Laguna. Initial police report states that the two allegedly traded fire with the authorities, but the Hellis family doesn't buy this.
Ganun naman po ginagawa nila pag naglaban, sabihin may baril. Kaya gawa-gawa na lang nila yung ano na yan. Maraming ganyan na sistema sa puro ng laban, may baril. Kaya pinatay.
John's mom admitted that he was involved in the illegal drugs, but she believes that what happened was an overkill.
Dapat po, hindi na lang nila pinatay. Hinuli na lang sana, ikulong. Para may pagkakataon pa yung bata magbago.
John is a father of 1-year-old kid and his 17-year-old wife is currently pregnant with his second child. His companion, 47-year-old Antonio Dalit, was also killed in the encounter. His relatives said Antonio was linked to illegal drugs before, but he had already changed since then. They also don't believe that the police indeed found several sachets of illegal drugs in his possessions.
Hindi naman ako pinalapit ng mga pulis. Hindi ko rin naman nakita kung talagang kinapkap sa niya. Kaya mahirap po magsabi.
May duda.
Oo, na magdududa ako o ano.
A bystander in the area disclosed that the cops intentionally killed the two after he overheard their conversation.
Wala kayong ititira dyan. Lahat yan uubusin.
Anong ibig sabihin nun?
Hindi ko nga rin po alam bago mangyari. At pagkatapos nun, pagkatawid ho nun sa ilog, ayun ako, sunod-sunod na ho naputukan ng narinig.
The Binyan police are still probing the incident, but they maintained that the operation was legal.
Hanggang ngayon po, nagsasagawa pa po kami ng follow-up investigation po tungkol po sa pangyayari po yan.
This is the latest report of the drug war killings after an ICC prosecutor formally sought authority to investigate the matter. For News 5, Romy Lopez. We are One News.
Meanwhile, the Bureau of Customs destroyed 21 smuggled luxury vehicles worth around 56 million pesos in Manila and Cagayan de Oro. 7 vehicles were seized from 3 ports in Manila and Subic, while 14 cars were seized in the port of Cagayan de Oro. These were shipped into the country by different consignees and were seized from 2018 to 2020. The BOC says that the destruction of the vehicles follows a presidential directive which reiterated the need to destroy smuggled vehicles to send a strong message that the government is serious in its efforts against smuggling. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.